I recently visited the Avatar experience in Spain, and although these statues are incredibly lifelike and detailed, especially the animatronic, I would say that it felt more like an Avatar exhibition. Avatar Theory here, hope you're doing well and having a fantastic day. And Avatar The Experience is currently happening in Spain, Madrid to be specific, and aims to transport you to Pandora, making you feel like you're right there in the movies alongside those characters. But does it succeed, or is it an experience that you'll easily forget? Previously, the Avatar Experience was held in Singapore, but unfortunately I was not able to attend that one, so there's nothing I can really compare it to except one other experience, which I will touch on later in the video. But when they announced that they're hosting one in Madrid, which is roughly 3.5 hours away from where I live in, well, flight terms, because I live in Norway, so I had to get on a flight, fly from Oslo to Madrid, where I spent just over an hour walking through Avatar The Experience. Now immediately I can say that the statues are incredibly detailed. They are life-size as far as I'm aware, and the way they are posed is very accurate to what you would see in the movies. It was quite an incredible feeling looking at a Direhorse which towers over me as you see the bioluminescent lights in the background, the plants surrounding it, and the music elevating the feeling, again trying its best to transport you right into the movies. The Hexepede in particular had a very expressive face, but I mean, they do kind of have that look in the movies, and honestly they're much bigger than I anticipated. But again, I was in awe about the amount of details that they put into making these statues. The Viperwolf in particular was one of my favorite, as it really captured that moment when Jake was stalked in the first Avatar movie. But by far the standout was the Ikran, mostly due to it being an animatronic. When I looked at it moving, I was really speechless in trying to figure out how they made it seem so realistic. I probably spent about 10 to 15 minutes just looking at this Ikran in awe, even trying to get its attention, thinking that for some reason I can tame this creature, but considering how massive it is, I probably won't stand a chance. There was also a display of half an amp suit as the back half was kind of cut off, and although it did have some accuracy in scale, I do feel that it was lacking details, as it would have been nice if they had a movie replica instead of just something that looked like a giant plastic toy. Now there were some interactive things to do at this event, such as creating your own avatar, finding out what creature you are. I ended up being an Ikran, by the way, lighting up certain things, smelling certain plants, and there's even this simulation where you move as an amp suit, where you move forward, jump, and slice with a knife using 2 different joysticks. And although that was fun to do, it was a little bit short. There's certainly a lot of boards to read and a lot of videos to look at, specifically one of Norm, where he talks about the Avatar program. So this was obviously done long before the release of The Way of Water, and as much as I loved looking at this particular video, I wish there was a bit more. I didn't really see any videos of anybody else, which was a disappointment. They did feature an area with all 4 clans, that being the Metkayina, Mongquan clan, aka Ash clan, as well as the Tlalim clan, aka Wind Traders. But aside from the Wind Traders and the Metkayina, there wasn't really much else to look at on the other 2 clans, because looking at the Metkayina, you had some lifelike statues of some Navi, and looking at the Wind Traders, there were also some instruments and 1 statue. But when you head over to the Metkayina, you do see some movie accurate baskets, but that's pretty much it. No Metkayina Navi, no member from the clan, no character from the movie, just some baskets. And heading over to the Ash clan, you have some burnt down trees a fire pit of sorts, and some weapons of the Monk One Raiders, but nothing else. And I feel that it's a huge missed opportunity to not have any Ash Clan warrior there. I mean, if you weren't going to put a replica of Rang, then at least put a replica of one of the Ash Clan warriors, because I do feel that they have some of the most interesting designs from the Avatar films, and it would have drawn huge crowds for photo opportunities looking at this huge characters, these evil Na'vi in a sense, and I don't understand why they didn't do anything. But as you continue to walk through the event, you do have some interactive screens, and you do have an area where you fly as an Ikran. Although you don't mount anything, you just kind of stand in front of a screen, flapping your arms, moving from side to side, tilting back to front. It was a fun game, a fun interactive thing, but you won't really do it for more than a couple of minutes. Then I came to an area which had some wood sprites, but it kind of glitched out, so I don't really know what was going on. Then as I continued to walk through the event, I came to the underwater section, which I'm guessing is supposed to replicate the Way of Water, but it was by far the most disappointing section of this event. When I walked in there, I saw a couple of screens which showed some footage of Tulkun, Ilus, and well, just a lot of water. And there's also lights that replicate the feeling of being underwater, but other than that, it was just a big open section. No statue, no underwater plants, nothing. Just a big open section with 4 screens. And looking at the footage on the screen, it almost felt like it was showing footage from trailers of The Way of Water, as it didn't feel like any of this footage was specifically made for this event. And like I said, it was just a huge missed opportunity. And then as the event comes to an end, you enter an area which they say is the Tree of Voices. And although at first glance it does look quite beautiful, as you get closer, and especially once you touch the hanging strings, you realize that it's only really the purple light inside that glows, and the strings that's hanging is just that, strings hanging from the roof. I really expected something to happen once I touched it, but nothing really happened. And then when you exit, there is the Tlalim trading post, which is their merchandise shop, which consists of 5 t-shirts. Yes, 5 t-shirts and nothing else. That I feel was also a huge letdown, because I was personally excited to buy some pins, maybe some fridge magnets, possibly some unique figures, especially considering stuff like this is very hard and expensive to get into Norway. But unfortunately there was only 5 t-shirts, one being a glow in the dark, one being Avatar the Experience, which is the one I bought, a print of Rang, a red t-shirt with a Night Wraith, and then a kids t-shirt. Overall, this experience can take from around 30 minutes to an hour, depending on if you're going to read every little piece of lore and detail, which I can recommend. And I spent roughly about an hour and a half through this experience, because I took my time taking photos, recording everything close up, interacting with everything possible, and just taking in as much as I can. Now, while my time there was enjoyable, it didn't really feel like the experience I'd hoped for. It did, like I said, feel more like an exhibition, purely because of all of the statues and the single animatronic. Now, I didn't expect everything to be an animatronic, and like I said, the Ikran alone is definitely a standout and worth your time if you're in the area. But I guess I just thought it would be a little bit bigger, and there would be a bit more to do, a bit more to interact with, and well, a bit more to buy at the shop right before you exit. Now, general tickets is about 22 euros, and if you buy a premium ticket, which includes fast pass plus a poster, it'll be roughly 31 euros. And that is the ticket I bought, because I wanted the poster, which, well, I didn't get. When I got to the end of the event, I was supposed to get a poster, which they stated hasn't arrived yet. Now granted, they did state they will try and send me the poster, but I know this was outside of their control. Overall, Avatar the Experience was worth the time. If you're in the area or live close by, I can recommend it, especially if you're an Avatar fan. But to answer the question, does it make me feel like I'm on Pandora, and is it a true Avatar experience? It's hard to say, mostly because of the language barrier, as it goes without saying that everything presented by the guides is in Spanish, and well, I don't speak Spanish, so most of what they were saying I didn't really understand. And on top of that, I do feel that there were a lot of empty and unused space that could have been utilized a little bit better. Now, I do have to point out that there is another experience event right next to Avatar the Experience, which is Jurassic World the Experience, and I went into that event straight after exiting Avatar the Experience, and I do feel as an experience event I did find the Jurassic World one more immersive, simply because of the fact that there were a lot more animatronics. There were certain sections where the guide was like interacting with the group, kind of panicking, a T-Rex popped out kind of chasing the crowd, and their merchandise store was just much bigger. And since it's the same events company, I was hoping that they would take elements from that experience event and implement it into Avatar, but maybe we will see that in future Avatar experiences. There's certainly a lot to enjoy here, especially, like I said, if you're an Avatar fan and you want to read more about the lore, interact with the world a little bit, see lifelike statues, and experience a fully animated Ikran. But when I looked over some elements of the event in Singapore, it does seem like they scaled back a little bit, and considering this is the second Avatar experience event, hopefully we will get more and bigger ones down the line. In the end, I did enjoy my time through this experience, although I was hoping for a little bit more, but it is hard to recommend if you live on the other side of the world, as I do feel that there's not enough just yet to justify the distance. But hopefully that will change in the future. But if you have any questions about this event, then let me know in the comments below, and if you are planning to attend this, then also let me know your thoughts in the comments below once you've attended this event. But for more Avatar content, have a look at the rest of my channel, and until next time, have a fantastic day and stay safe.